Welcome to the Arate Podcast, the podcast created to help senior executives and the organisations they lead live up to their full potential. Join us for cutting-edge interviews with leading senior executive and board members across all industry sectors, and for practical tips to accelerate your executive career. And now, here's your host, Richard Triggs.
You and I met when you came and gave a presentation to a group that I'm involved with, and I really found the content of your presentation so interesting and so refreshing. You've got such a unique sort of take on your area of specialty that I thought you'd be an awesome guest to have along and share what you're up to and your messaging with the people who listen in. So great to have you here. What's been happening in your world lately?
So my daughter just turned 16, going on,
Okay.
Daddy, I want your car. So she's coming for the vehicle with L plates in hand. Apparently a sweet 16 party's a thing now. So when I grew up, it was an 18th, but apparently there's a 16th coming, and she's got 50 people to invite. So that's what's happening on the daughter front. And my little monkey, my 12-year-old boy, has just got into a specialist sports school, so a selective sports school. That means we've got a move coming up. So all stop, all change. Make sure you got a house to live in when the new school year comes around, Richard. So plenty going on.
Fantastic. What is his sport of choice?
He's a soccer player. So we watched the Club World Cup this morning and watched cold-hearted Cole Palmer just tear PSG a new one. So he enjoyed that no end.
Right. I'm a bit late to the party, but I just watched the first season of Welcome to Wexham, which no doubt you've seen, the documentary series about the actors that buy that Welsh football team. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, so Ryan Reynolds and some other guy who I don't know bought this Welsh soccer team, Wexham, and I think there's 4 seasons, and it's like the real-life version of Ted Lasso.
Because when you said bought a soccer team, I was like, Ted Lasso? It's like, no, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, this is a real one. Oh, well, that's excellent.
Wow.
Yeah, my kids are kind of the opposite way around. So my son's just about to turn 18, and he's already informed me he's having the 18th at my house, and so I'm preparing to lock up all the valuables. And my daughter is 13, so we've done it kind of the opposite way around. Okay, well, that's always good to start talking about family. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it sounds so trite, doesn't it? People say, "Oh, I'm doing this for my kids," but once you have kids and they're at that age, you do realize that why am I working so hard? Well, it's to pay school fees and hopefully buy that car for your daughter and those kind of things. But tell us a little bit about what you do professionally and step change. Obviously, you've been doing that for a long time. So what's step change all about?
Yeah, so step change is inspiring step changes in businesses and teams to helping challenger businesses realize their ambition. So it's great work is that we get to work with clients in times of change, times and transition, and we get to do the fun stuff. So primarily within marketing and really using marketing to drive significant business outcomes. So our best case studies aren't at the vanity metric level. Our best case studies are at the business growth level. So we helped a small plumbing business go from 2 million to 6 million. That took 3 years, but their EBIT multiplier went from 3.5 to 9, i.e. they've tripled the leverage value within the business. Another client who's used all of our services over the last 5 years went from a market cap of about 256 million market cap to just clocking $1 billion. So those are the sorts of case studies that light me up and keep me loving coming to work. And it's great work, and it's heaps of fun to work through clients in those moments of change. Yeah, go Richard.
Fantastic. And, I suppose, you give 2 examples there, which are almost at the extreme opposite ends of business, 2 million versus, I think you said $1 billion. Is it just a case of more numbers at the end, or is it a dramatically different proposition, the way that you work with businesses, dependent upon where they are at in terms of that spectrum?
Look, it's such a great question, Richard. And look, we used to be project only, where we'd do a single point in time project or transition for a client. So we probably did about 1,000 projects over 10 to 15 years, every sector and category. So I used to say we used to have a maternity ward and a funeral home. So we used to be birth to burial, and then we got a fertility
Right.
clinic. So we've worked fertility to funeral and everything in between and around the world, like from New Zealand to Stockholm to LA. We've had clients everywhere. And it's really interesting is that good marketing, good business strategy is good business strategy and good marketing. And often within the competitive sector, if you can take those principles and apply them, you can outsmart versus needing to outspend the competitive set. So we
Mm.
tend to work best with the challenger who doesn't want to just muscle their way through with the traditional playbook. They're
Hmm.
willing to outflank, outthink. Right? I love that Rutherford quote. We have no money, we shall have to think. That tends
Right.
to be the client who we come with. But look, we don't take, if clients come to us and go, I know exactly what I need to do. I just need to, get a more efficient click-through rate on my, I'm just like, well, go do that, right? It's not a good fit for us. Like
Mm.
we're all about challenging thinking, challenging the way things have been done for challenger businesses, people who want to make their mark and do things different. I mean, probably the proudest case study I ever had was Are You OK Day, which was the brief that I worked on with the founder, Gav Larkin, back in the day, right?
Hmm.
That's a meaningful change, a meaningful step change. But there's no numbers associated with that. So there's not one playbook or formula. It's the ability to apply great principles to a changed environment.
Right. And before we sort of get into talking about marketing and some of those fundamental challenges and opportunities for organisations, how did you come to start your own business? Back in the day, what led to that?
It actually does come out of Are You OK Day. So great. So godfather to my daughter, who just turned 16, and a great friend was Gav Larkin. And he was CEO of a small agency at the time. And I was the chief strategist. And he tragically got, well, he had challenges around his own mental health, which was the
Hmm.
genesis of Are You OK Day? And I'm sort of proud to say I had the first Are You OK Day conversation ever where Gav one day went, I'm not okay. And I've gone, oof, well, that's okay that it's not okay, but why don't you go away and do this? And I got some value out of these things. And he went and did a course, and the project of the course was actually Are You OK Day? And then I got to work on the initiation brief and the branding and the go-to-market plan and sort of help launch it. But during that time, tragically, Gav's child ended up with a brain tumor and Gav got cancer. And
Mm.
Gav went on compassionate leave. And during that compassionate leave, the caretaker management basically staged a coup. And I found some stuff on a printer one day and I just went, what? So I resigned to the group CEO and it was a protest vote, but it was mid GFC, so 2007, 8, I think, with no clients, no money, no idea. And the other strategist, when he went, well, if you're going, I'm coming too. So
Mm.
the two of us left and set up really just on a protest vote, Richard. So it wasn't any cleverer than really an opportunity stand on principles. And we've been going ever since.
Fantastic. It's interesting because I started my business on the 1st of February 2009, right in that GFC period as well. And I've never really thought of it from the perspective of I started my business as a protest vote. But basically, that's what I did too. I just got sick and tired of reporting to other people
Mm.
and being frustrated. And I thought, well, I have to do it for myself because if I keep sitting in the passenger seat and saying, or being critical about decisions that were being made, then I needed to prove to myself that my own decisions were smarter. And I tell you, so 16 and a half years for me, 17 odd years for you. How many times in that period you thought, oh, life would be so much easier if I was an employee again? I've
Yeah.
thought that many times.
And I think it's on those two levels, Richard, is that undoubtedly the journey of an employee is easier in one sense, unless you're an entrepreneur, unless you have this itch to scratch around being able to explore your creativity on your own terms. And I think
Yeah.
Douglas Brackman wrote a book called Driven and looks at the cognitive profile of entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs have D2, D4 dopamine receptors that operate differently to normal people. So
Okay.
the way he describes it was, as humans have evolved, there was hunters and there was
Yep.
the gatherers, and each had a particular skill set and mindset. And the entrepreneur who has this energy to go and create and start their own business and engage in running something that always is going to have its challenges, that will always be harder than the employee's journey, is the entrepreneur's journey. So it's an interesting book, especially
Right.
for those who have children who may start to reflect some of the behaviors of the parent, Richard. It's an interesting read for the partner, the spouse, or
Right.
the significant life partner of the principal, but also the children, in terms of getting that, there are some differences in the wiring, and what's the right path for some people is not the right path for everyone. I think too much now we see equality as treating everyone the same all the time. And I think for me, equality is treating everyone with respect, but understanding that different people are different, and
Yeah.
being able to attend to that is a really great opportunity for the entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, and we're seeing that so much now, and without going off on too much of a tangent, but just a greater understanding now around things like ADHD and other conditions like that, and recognizing that it's not a disability, it's just a different way of processing information, and finding ways to creatively accommodate and use that as a strength in business. Because I'm often accused of having ADHD, and I think to myself, well, I might have ADHD, I don't know, but this is how I am, and I just accept that I'm a bit of a crazy dude, and I think most entrepreneurs probably are. But we could have a whole podcast about that. Maybe we should do that another time. So marketing's such an interesting area because nowadays there's just so many channels to market. There's so much data available. There's so many opportunities for business, and yet businesses still, in most instances, and I'd say this definitely for my company, marketing's that one area that companies really fall down on. Why do you think it is that businesses struggle so much with marketing, in this current environment?
It depends on your approach. And I think too many organizations, when they don't know what to do, they do what they know. And they often find someone close to them. And, I love digital specialists, but I don't have a lot of time for the digital marketer fraternity. And the reason I don't have a lot of time for the digital marketer fraternity is that they purport to be marketers, but they're digital platform specialists. And their go-to-market plan is often social first. So they just, we need to be on Meta, or we need to be on LinkedIn, or we need to be on Instagram, or we need to do this. So social, then they hire an influencer, and then they hope to win an award or a trophy. So you use that acronym through. So do the math on that one, Richard. Social, hope, influencer, trophy. Yeah.
So it's a bit shit.
Yeah, it's a bit shit, right? So that's where the results. And if you look at the reasons for that, is that the organic pass-through rate. So I think when most platforms started and we were talking before the show that I've just clocked 50, and I was around at the start of digital platforms when they started coming through, and the organic pass-through rate on some of the platforms was as high as 70 or 80%. I.e., at the start, if you had an audience, they would be reached, 70, 80% of those audience or followers. Now it's low single digits for a lot of the platforms. So you can't just rely on one-dimensional social strategies, and it's just not the place to start. So the way that we start is proper marketing with 4 Ps, right? Do we have the right product solution suite? Is it in the right places? Because placement will, or the physical availability will trump any sort of advertising any day of the week. So do we have the right distribution channels to market? Then pricing is a critical one. And in the sort of inflationary money printing presses just running 24/7 to bail out of inflation while creating additional inflation, you've got to understand your pricing and your value mix there. And then it's the full P, the promotions bit is called integrated communications. And advertising's once again only one lever in that. So anyone who's starting with an ad first approach is missing the value of marketing, right? So rather than the acronym that we were talking about before, it's always RAM. Result, what do you need? Who's my audience? What message do we want to deliver? And then the medium. So the simple way to remember it is RAM. If we want a result, what result are we actually after? Who's the audience that we're going to? What message can we deliver? Because message will trump media by a factor of 6 to even 12, the latest research says, Richard. So either you have a great message or you just take the Harvey Norman approach and just scream at people. It's choose, right? Either we spend the time crafting and developing a message that will cut through, or we have to spend a lot more on our media. So that's why it's that order and that sequence in the frame of having a really great 4 Ps discussion about marketing. And there's so much, oh no, there's not 4 Ps, there's 7 Ps. I think there was an MBA graduate went, oh no, it's 11 Ps now, right? You're so out of touch and out of date. I'm like, my God, like if you get the 4 Ps right, then everything starts to work a lot better. The discussion or the nonsense around, there's 7 Ps, 11 Ps, there's 15 Ps, there's 4 E. It's noise for the sake of noise. And I think it distracts. And I go back to that Winston Churchill quote, when the world's upside down, you need to revert to first principles. That's what we were saying at the start. It matters not the category, the size of the organization. If you have a great strategy executed well, you tip the odds of success in your favor. If you're trying to launch a rocket from the canoe, we know how that's going to go. And unfortunately, most marketing today is trying to launch a rocket from a canoe. They're like, whoa, whoa, like firing stuff off and hoping that it hits. And, we offer, what I describe as a non-sexy approach. I say, look, if you want to launch a rocket from a canoe, you'll get a whole bunch of noise. Something will probably go bang, but it's unlikely to get you a long-term sustainable result because all of the marketing effectiveness data, like all of it, says the benefits of a long-term marketing campaign come over the long term. And consistency is the key. And you can only be consistent if you set up the launch pad, the scaffolding, the guidance system, the ignition sequence, the re-entry, the landing, right? You've got to really put that thought in, but people don't really want to do the work. They're after a quick fix and they want to fall into the trap of, those over promises that happen. And you probably get them yourself, Richard, like you'd get 15 emails while we're on this chat together going, oh, I can get you 50 leads by lunchtime, 100 by the end of the day. I can get you 3,000 by, and it's just shouty nonsense. Like it's just rubbish.
Yeah, I completely concur with what you're saying, and certainly I've spent tens of thousands of dollars historically with people promising search engine optimization and all of these other tools, but going back to what you're saying, and I have a marketing degree way back when in the early 90s, and those 4Ps, that was something that we learned about back then, and a lot of these digital marketing specialists, or however they choose to entitle themselves, it's all about the rocket. It's not about what are you actually, what is that launch pad, or and I can completely see through my own experience that it's been totally ineffectual. And and then obviously now, AI coming into the game. I mean, AI, people are just suddenly going, oh, this AI is fantastic. I'm going to use it to write my newsletters and my blog posts and my marketing content and so on. I mean, I'd be interested in what you think about how people are using AI, because to me, it's just creating a lot of homogenized rubbish that is just furthering this 15 to 50 emails a day with these AI-based strategies, which seem to me to be just the latest flash in the pan.
So insightful, Richard. Yes, spot on. Look, I go back to the David Abbott quote that shit delivered at the speed of light is still shit. And unfortunately, too many people are looking at AI the wrong way. So I was resistant on even having a keynote talk on AI. And the reason for that was that so many businesses do not have the foundations in place, and they're still trying to launch rockets from canoes. The challenge is, Richard, is that because AI is all that anyone wants to talk about right now, is either I do the talk and I frame it in the context of good principles, and I help organizations see the value of that in the context of good marketing, or some Muppet digital marketer will do the talk and end up getting people on retainers delivering shit at the speed of light. And all that does is damage the reputation of quality marketers, where people who are not qualified, and it's fantastic you got a marketing qualification, because that's a business qualification. And so many business owners and leaders, they are meticulous with their product. They're meticulous with their operations. And when it comes to marketing, they're happy to fire off rockets from canoes, and they just get frustrated with it. It's gobsmacking just how inattentive the marketing community has been to its own reputation, where they let people hold themselves out as marketers and just promise the world and deliver DAPTO. I don't think there's DAPTO in. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the term DAPTO. What's DAPTO?
I was just framing, I was wondering whether there was a DAPTO in Queensland. So DAPTO is the town, and apologies to anyone who's from DAPTO, but DAPTO is the town that doesn't really deliver. You know how there's sort of a town that you stop at on the way to somewhere?
All right.
Yeah, DAPTO's probably not worth the stop. So I've alienated the DAPTO ordinance. There you go. I've alienated DAPTO, right. But yes, promising the world delivering DAPTO is, it was one of those Gav sayings, the guy who did Are You OK Day. So yeah, promise the world, deliver DAPTO. So poor old DAPTO. They do have dogs racing. If you're into the DAPTO doggies, if you want to go see the doggies race, DAPTO's the place. But unless you're big on dog racing, you probably give DAPTO a miss.
Fair enough. And so what about, organizations that are B2B focused or B2C? And indeed, some organizations are both B2B and B2C. What do you see as some of the challenges when you're trying to appeal to those different markets, and where organizations may treat them the same? What are some of the mistakes that companies make?
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting point, Richard. So there are differences between business to business and business to consumer. There are noticeable differences. One is that the purchase cycle tends to be longer, and there's multiple decision makers, i.e. in B2B, once it's a $10,000 plus purchase, the purchase cycle might be between 3 weeks to 3 years, We once had a client who quoted us for 9 years until they became CEO of a listed company, and dropped me a note, and he's going, "Oh, hey, Ash, I've been following you for 9 years. You probably can't even remember me, but I love your stuff. And now I'm CEO of a listed company. You and the steppers are on." So, you never know just how long that lead cycle is.
Mm.
But within B2B, also there's multiple decision makers that have multiple drivers. So one of the truths around human decision making is people make emotional decisions and rational justifications. And B2B marketers miss this all the time. They think that in B2B it becomes completely rational, and it's just not. And there was a Gartner Harvard Business Review study, Richard, that said if you submit an RFP, RFQ, tender proposal, if you've got a proposal conversion phase within your business, 92% of the time, it's not that proposal that will convert. In fact, before an organization goes to market, they might do a shortlist. So in a board meeting, an ELT meeting, they might sit around and go, "Oh, we need to fix the software. We need to fix the thing. We need to go to market," and they'll do a shortlist. How many on the shortlist? Minimum of 3, probably maximum of 5. If you're not on that shortlist in B2B, you won't win 92% of the time. So
Yeah.
all of the focus of trying to come in last minute, trying to switch out, it just doesn't work. Like, people have made an emotional decision and then they'll rationally justify. So if you're in B2B, you've got to be prepared to build what's called that mental availability, to get upstream, to provide high value content when you're not selling. And I assume today, Richard, you're not going to go into your price points, rate card, but you're providing value for your audience, and you're doing exactly that, right? It's clever marketing to not turn up to sell, but turn up to create value, to build rapport, to offer a more thoughtful, considered approach. So your podcast is an excellent example of, in the B2B space, taking a smarter approach.
Well, I think, for me, why do I do podcasts? Because I find it fun. I find I really enjoy talking to interesting people. But as you say, it's providing, my view has always been, if I can build a community and add value to that community, then recruitment is really ancillary to that. So people get to know me, they come to my lunches, they engage with this content, they become part of the Arate family. And then almost as a sort of a secondary consideration, it's like, "Oh, by the way, we need to recruit a new CFO. Richard, can you help us out?" So I don't have any higher level thinking than that. Perhaps I should, but I know for myself, working in the B2B space, a couple of years ago, I started to look at these influencers and thinking, why can't I be an influencer? These young kids flying around in private jets and driving, Rolls Royces, and here am I delivering real value, writing books, doing podcasts, and doing so on. Where is that at for me? And I sort of started on this journey of, and I was actually talking to a PR company, and they said, "Look, Richard, you don't want to be an influencer. Influencers sell other people's products. You want to be a thought leader." And that really sort of framed up my thinking. But I think that coming back to this question, B2B versus B2C, one of the things that, I definitely agree with you is that a B2B decision is still an emotive decision. Especially, in my space in recruitment, fundamentally, it's a pretty homogenous industry. We can do things perhaps slightly faster or slightly cheaper or slightly better, but I mean, what really distinguishes us from our competitors, our clients like us more,
Yeah.
and that's it. So a lot of the, going back to your earlier point, a lot of the social media based marketing and the SEO and pay-per-click and all of this kind of stuff, it becomes, where's the emotional connection? Where is the real, sense of community that's going to make somebody, as you say, trying to justify rationally an emotive decision?
And
So
it's go Richard. Yep.
I was going to say, so your client base, would you have a fairly even mix of B2B and B2C, or do you orientate yourself one way or the other?
Look, we spent a lot of time in B2C, was where I grew up. So clients like Yum International, which is KFC, Pizza Hut, was where I cut my teeth. And I'd worked on a lot of big global consumer brands.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, we do a lot of B2B. And the reason for that is that when it's technical, i.e., a technical product, or it's intangible, you're selling a service, we've discovered a few really key and meaningful moments in that funnel or journey that most people just miss. So it really does become an opportunity to provide amazing cut through value for our clients. And we're just playing at a place where we're relatively strong. So we don't really have any competitors, which is weird, right? There's 3,000 agencies just in New South Wales alone. But I don't think there's any that come head to head, because we position now as a fractional marketing department, right? There's this lonely marketer sitting there wondering which is the way forward. And sometimes they're the business owner trying to remember what was in their degree from 20 years ago, or sometimes they're just a solo person where they may have one junior and they're trying to make sense of this modern world of marketing. And it's too hard because they need the thought leader. They need the strategist marketer who can do segmentation, targeting, positioning. They need the brand marketer who can bring something to life distinctively. And then they need the optimizer who makes sure they're getting bang for buck. But which one you're going to hire? And you're not going to find one who's got all three.
Yeah, that in recruitment, obviously, this term fractional is a relatively new term, but essentially it's become quite, it is spoken about a lot now. Rather than thinking I need to hire a chief marketing officer and I've got a limited capacity from a budget point of view on the salary that I can pay, instead engage a fractional, marketing specialist who is still essentially my chief marketing officer, but they might work 2 days a week or 4 days a month rather than, have that full-time expense. And I see a lot of opportunity, and a lot of my clients are now starting to ask for that, whereas they weren't previously. Just to try and give this some, real world context, you made a comment in that when we were talking then about, these companies missing these small opportunities. So tell us a real world example of perhaps one of your clients where you were able to identify something that enabled them to really springboard their marketing efforts.
Yeah, probably one of the simplest ones is that if you have a service business, we call it our value visualizer, is that there's value in your process. And you went before, look, your business, you're good people, you're generous with the community, people like you, and you're happy to deliver value up front, Richard. But there would be steps in your process that not all recruiters would take or do, and they'd try and shortcut some stuff that you've built over the years that now you don't even see because it's like the nose on your face. You're so close to it, you just go, that's just the way we do things. So that's what's called the curse of knowledge. And the trouble is, the more of a thought leader you become, Richard, the harder it is to remember what it was like being novice or new to your business. So a value visualizer sits down with you and gets out of your head how you find better candidates that are more qualified, that stay for longer, and are put in an environment where people get the best out of them when they join that team, right? And there would be a series of things that you do that you might not have articulated. Some of it might be trademarkable along the way, but you just haven't visualized that. And you may have done this, but most businesses, certainly in service land, haven't visualized those steps to say, at this point, we'll be doing this. And at that point, client, you'll be doing this. And along that journey, we will be creating value together that delivers these sorts of results the other side. We did that for a financial advisor. And like, that's one of the things that's particularly hard. And it was, yeah, you could say it's B2C, but they were appealing to business owners who were looking at untangling the value in their business and sort of protecting that well. We introduced a value visualizer for them. It tripled the conversion rate from first meeting to proposal. And once we designed that, it was literally a double-sided A3, like $1 to print. But the value at that point of the funnel was absolutely gobsmacking. So, you know, that's one of the things that we consistently, and we've done hundreds of them now, but most businesses just don't do them, right? Because the model for most agencies is they sell media and they make a commission on the media. So what's the answer to your problem? Oh, Richard, you know, we've got to get you out there, you know, spending money on Google, and right, Google gets rich and the agency gets rich, and you miss the big opportunities. So I've worked really hard to make sure that we act as a marketing department for a client where we only recommend the stuff that helps them win. And we don't have a solution in our back pocket where we're trying to sell something digital, where we're trying to sell any particular solution, because sometimes the point of leverage for a client is currently unseen. And you know, we've got a tactics library of about 300 initiatives where we've managed to move the needle. So it's a case of assessing a client's situation, looking back into the stuff that we have evidenced and we know works, and bringing that to market.
Fantastic. Another thing that you talk about a lot, and certainly when I heard you speak, is this idea of relevance and behavioural economics, which for a lot of people sitting here, by behavioural economics, you know, what's that all about? So, you know, particularly when an organisation is offering a service or a product that, you know, is quite complex, or it's challenging for people to get their head around, you know, how do you make those messages land?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So they're called sort of cognitive biases or heuristics, and it goes back to decision science, a lot of it, of how people process information, how do they make decisions. So a couple of mistakes that businesses who don't really have a good handle around behavioral economics is they try to play it safe. So they come to a category and they do ads that look like everyone else. Now that's great for the market leader, because 5 nines, over half the dollars spent in every category is misattributed to the market leader. So the first bit to understand in behavioral economics is most people don't give a shit. They're sitting around in, like, Microsoft didn't invent the screensaver, evolution did. So, you know, our brain's 2% of our body mass, 20% of our usage. And when people just tune out, they just tune into screensaver mode. So they're not paying attention. So if we want to cut through as a challenger, bang, we've got to cut through hard. So blow the sound out. But yeah, you do. So the sequence is always impact, communication, persuasion. And impact says if you don't get noticed, everything else is academic. So that's the first thing. The second thing is people aren't stupid, they're lazy. And if we confuse, we lose. So often we want to go, and another thing, and we want to give people all this information to help them make rational decisions, and they're not. They're making emotional decisions. And if we're asking too much of people, if we haven't done the work to make it simple, we'll lose. And we need to understand those shortcuts. I'll give you sort of one fun example. We started talking about kids. So we were working on a nappy bin. I don't know when your kids were kids, Richard, whether you went into that world of nappy bins, but there was a clear market leader, which was great when the kid was only doing number ones within the nappy. But a nappy bin, once the kids flip to number twos, is an absolutely satanic, diabolical assault on the senses. It is absolutely frightening. I think, you know, UNESCO or the, you know, one of the Red Cross crimes against humanity would put somebody in a room with a nappy bin and like, job done. So anyway, our client was coming to the market, and the market leader were like, oh, we're number one and we're number one. So they were driving the category through. Okay, and because people hadn't shopped the category, right? When most parents as first-time parents get nappy bins, so they're new to the category. And when you're new to a category, what do you look for? Trust. How do
Yeah.
you find trust? Number one, right? You don't get fired for hiring IBM. You
Yeah.
don't get a bad result by taking the market leader. So that left very little room for our client. Now, when we delved into what made our clients different, they had a bicarbonate of soda that didn't just mask the smell, because a lot of the competitors would just mask the smell. The bicarb of soda like put the pin back in the grenade, right? It actually
Right.
neutralized the smell. So we went out with a positioning that was number one for number twos. The
Right.
actual nappy bin that worked when the shit hit the fan, the nose, and everywhere else. So that was an example of framing the decision where we understood how people were deciding, and we repositioned the competition or changed the frame. So we reframed what number one meant, where it really mattered. So number one for number twos became our positioning or our challenge positioning for the category.
So would it be fair to say that when you're working with your clients, what you're doing, if we go back to the prior point, is unpacking their genius? So what is it that they're doing that makes them different from their competitors? That is that intrinsic knowledge or operating system that perhaps hasn't been communicated, and then looking then at, okay, how are we positioning in the market in order to differentiate based on those attributes, which will give a clear distinction from that number one market leader.
Yes, spot on, Richard. It's almost like you studied marketing.
Right.
Yeah, there's a term out. There's a term out for some of your listeners who might not have come across it, but the Kotler recent Trout School of Marketing was all about differentiate or die, right? It was all like, oh, you need to find your point of difference and differentiate and differentiate. Now, there is value in differentiation, especially in sustaining margin, right? Because if you can prove points of difference they can't get anywhere else, plays really well to margin. But distinctiveness, which is, can you be unmistakably you, trumps differentiation if we want to grow our business or brand. And it's so important, I'll say it again. The data and the research says that the school of differentiation of I've got to dig and find something completely different does have some value, but has been proven to be less important than distinctiveness, which is how can you be unmistakably you? And that goes back to that 5/9 law before, where if we're not unmistakably us, it's just misattributed to the market leader. So the sequence or journey that we take clients on is really 4 steps, Richard. 1, do you have a business strategy that's actually a proper strategy? Because most businesses don't have a strategy. They take last year's numbers, fiddle them by 5 to 7% and call it a strategic plan. It's not, right? Strategy is about understanding the context, making choices, and then cascading that through. So do we have a business strategy that informs a marketing strategy, right? That's the first thing. What are we really asking from marketing? Then, as you articulated beautifully before, we need a value proposition. What's true to us, valuable to our audience, and different from our competitors, right? That X meets the spot moment, and ideally we've got an edge in there. Then we do the go-to-market planning, and we really think carefully about how we attended to all of the 4 Ps, where we've got the right product, priced in the right way, available at those points of purchase, and coming to mind when people are entering the category. And then the big thing a lot of businesses need to get over is they've got to invest for success. They have been burned in the past, and they've got a really, really low trust in marketers. They've got and they should really have a cynical, low trust view. But the trouble is, a lot of businesses stifle their growth, and they're playing a really small game with their business growth because they haven't unlocked a marketing engine that they're prepared to invest in.
And yes, and as you say, I mentioned a lot of business owners or senior leaders listening to this podcast, like me, are going, "Wow, this is really exciting," and yet at the same time quite daunting because there's obviously to do this properly, there's a lot to be done. But in
Yeah.
terms of people looking at their own business and saying, "Yep, I think that we are missing some opportunity for growth here," what's the first thing that they can do to start to, generate these opportunities for growth? Where's the low hanging fruit?
Yeah, look, unfortunately, Richard, they're probably not going to like my answer because I'm going to go back and say what I said again is like tactically, you can turn on a tactic. So I might use, so for some clients who go, where's the low hanging fruit? Right now, there's a short term tactical opportunity. We've used it for ourselves and some of our clients where a lot of businesses have a database. The database is old, disengaged. If it's more than a third of email addresses will churn every 1 to 2 years. So if you've got an old database, chances are they're disengaged. Now, if you've got mobile phone numbers in there, you can use an SMS AI agent to text the thousands of people and engage in a conversation with them to re-engage them around an offer and opportunity, right? That's one short-term tactical opportunity that's available in AI. Now, it works now. I think during the election, we all got pretty annoyed with trumpets of patriots, like texting everyone, but that was an outbound, unfiltered broadcast, not a conversation. So an AI agent will deliver some news, engage with a lapsed customer, and bring them back into the market in a meaningful way. It's super powerful and it's super tactical, but it's a tactic. It's not marketing strategy. So there's a low hanging fruit. We've got 300 of them, but I wouldn't recommend that until I knew what's your business strategy? What do you require of marketing? Do you have a clear value proposition? Let's do a coordinated go-to-market plan, and then let's understand the budget and how you want to invest over the next couple of years to really press and dominate the market. And a lot of clients are still hoping the quick win's enough, and that's the firing a rocket from a canoe. And I'll give you one example is that when I said we don't have a competitor, we really don't. But there was an accounting firm who ended up coming to us because they knew they needed to do the work, and we said, look, here's the pathway. We gave them what we call complete step change and outlined the 7 to 10 things they need to do over the next 12 months. And it felt like a little bit of hard work. So they went and got another quote from a digital marketing agency. They went, hey, they're cheaper. And they've talked to us about Facebook. I'm like, what? They've gone, yeah. You didn't mention Facebook. I've gone, why would I mention Facebook when you don't know who your target audience is? You don't know which out of your 15 services is the big priority. And we're not clear around the targeting for our clients. And if we go onto Facebook via Meta, there's no target. So they were a B2B business. So Meta doesn't allow you to target the business that the click comes from. So you've got incredibly unqualified leads. So my question to them was, who's qualifying the leads? And they went, oh, we are. So you've got 3 partners sitting around the table whose charge out rate is $600 an hour who are going to qualify junk leads themselves. Like, it's just 7 bags of crazy to my mind. But I said, look, if and they ended up going with a digital marketing agency, which will charge them a setup fee to go, oh, we can't do anything for 2 months because we've got to set it up. Then the first month they'll go, oh, no, it takes a while to work. Then the third month they'll generate a bag of rubbish leads. And then they'll say, no, we'll requalify them. Next month it'll be the same. They'll get sacked after 6 months. But it then just damages the client's trust, damages the results, and it'd just be a really poor experience all around. So it's hard. It's hard, Richard, to really get people to do the work. And I just don't know I don't know an easy way around it or why businesses treat marketing as the coloring in department. Like, it's an important part of growing a profitable business.
Well, fundamentally, it's the most essential part, isn't it? In that, if you're not selling, then you're not making any revenue to spend on those other things. So, but as from speaking from a business owner's perspective, I'm sure that many people would go, "This sounds fantastic, but I'm up to my neck in crocodiles. We find it difficult to manage what we're doing already. And now, I can see opportunity, but do I have the time and the financial capacity to really unpack and explore it properly?" That must be a fairly constant theme that you hear.
Yeah, and it really is that, working in that challenger space, and we do work, right from the smallest businesses like those couple of startups with an idea right through to ASX-listed companies or blue chip internationals. And as I said right at the start, Richard, good marketing is good marketing, and it can apply to any business with ambition. But the trick shot for businesses trying to get rid of the crocodiles is really that bottom of the funnel stuff. So as part of our solution, we look at proposals that convert like crazy because, and these are hard lessons. I know this is a podcast, Richard, but you could probably see the lessons that I've learned are probably similar to some of the lessons you've learned in the way that I lost my hair over the years. And I never want our clients to pay for lessons that I've already paid for.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that we see for organizations who are in the crocodile phase, excuse me, must be allergic to crocodiles. I am actually allergic to dust and grass, so as long as I'm not inside or outside, I'm fine. But one of the things that organizations need to do is have a look at their funnel. If without marketing really being constructed well, the easiest thing to do is to sell to your existing database. That means having a good marketing automation system, providing huge value to your existing audience, and making sure if you get the opportunity to present a proposal that it converts like crazy. So a good proposal conversion rate is where we start for the crocodile hunters, Richard, because the cost of having proposals that don't convert, the loss of emotive energy, the loss of momentum, and the opportunity cost is enormous. So I know that because our proposal conversion rate at one point in our business was 18%. And we were screaming out of businesses and writing proposals like loonies. Like, we were like, woo, writing proposals to anyone who wanted one and going nowhere. And then at another point in our business where we didn't have the right capacity, I was converting proposals at, I think, 126%, i.e. I was going, yeah, I won't write you a proposal, but if you want to appoint us, I'll drop you an email, right? So those two extremes are crazy, right? I'm undercooking my growth at both levels. So we keep for ourselves and our clients where it makes sense, but 60 to 80% proposal conversion rate, that's the point to start with. So I'd really make sure that if you are in a nest of crocodiles, if you can't see your way to finding the headspace to do some proper marketing, look at your proposal conversion rate, look at your marketing automation system. Are you really capturing data and using, and the unlock on AI in that space is amazing. I think the average database in Australia has something like a 20% around, sort of open rate, and then click-through rates are as low as 2.5 to 3.5%. Our open rates generally above 50% for us, and we try and get our clients there. We used a digital variable AI to get 33.7% click-through rate. So 10x on the industry benchmark, right? And that's how you use technology to really leverage and press advantage. Now, when everyone's using that, the benchmark will reset, but there's certainly short-term opportunities in applying AI in meaningful ways. It's not about using ChatGPT to write your posts for you. And that's people trying to win a game that's already lost, right? When you're using ChatGPT to write blog posts that nobody's going to read except other AI bots, what are you really doing? Because people are bypassing traditional Google search anyway. So the job is, how do I get upstream and get included and named within the responses from the large language models, right? And that's a whole different game. So we need to use technology to win the game of the future, not to try and win the games of the past. Like it's super exciting times at the moment.
Fascinating. And I suppose just to close out this conversation, Ash, no doubt when people work with you, you take them through a process. So those people who are listening, including myself, who go, oh, wow, there could be some great opportunity for me. How do people generally engage with you to begin with? And how would you like people to come in on your radar?
Yeah, so look, if the time's not right, we're happy to provide value and get to know us over time. So I'm always posting contrarian views on LinkedIn and sharing the latest research on marketing effectiveness and helping people not be led astray by marketing over promises. So get in touch, follow me on LinkedIn. When it comes to that point of people serious in making a step change, we have a pathway called complete step change, which we say, how do I grow my business from top line to bottom line? Because you can grow a business by just giving stuff away, but that's not good and it's not sustainable. So we want to grow top line and bottom line for a business. And in doing that, we've outlined sort of 60 levers that we can pull, which is it's way too many. But we use that as a diagnostic now to select probably the 5 to 10 that matter for your business and then someone else's business. And we allow them access to say, what's the right sequence to get marketing to work for them? Because if you're hitting and hoping and there's no path to ROI, it just won't work. So the best marketing, if you've got a leads problem today and your sales team are screaming for leads, you had a marketing problem 18 months ago. So it's like investing. Right. The best time to invest was 20 years ago. The second best time to invest is today. Same with your marketing. So start the journey towards better marketing. Just take little steps, but we're happy to provide a complete step change diagnostic and then let people see what good looks like. And we're happy to do that up front without a charge for someone who's self-qualified, right? We give a lot in that. So, and we met through that CEO network, Richard, where there's really high degrees of trust and integrity. And that's really, the world that we live in is expecting the best from people and partners and really saying if people aren't serious, then there's other ways for them to go. But, we've got now, we're not doing 100 projects a year. We've got sort of at any time 10 to 15 clients, and we want to have better relationships with fewer people and really make sure that they see us as their team. We were in a session last Friday and the owner, when he closed out, went, and I just want to say thanks to Step Change, who not just are consultants, they're our team. And that's sort of warm the cockles of my heart.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it's always good to have a warm cockle. Well, Ash,
you don't want the cold cockles that are being left in the sun all day.
No cold.
You want to.
That's right. No cold cockles on the Arate podcast. Ash, great to speak to you, and a really fascinating conversation. Certainly from my own perspective, I'm interested in learning more about how you might be able to help Arate Executive. But for anybody else listening in, we'll make sure that we have Ash's contact details in the show notes, and I'm sure he would love to chat to you about your unique challenges and opportunities in your business. But for now, Ash, thanks very much for your time, and have a fantastic afternoon.
Pleasure. Really enjoyed chatting, Richard. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Arate podcast with Richard Triggs. We frequently feature guests from organisations we are currently recruiting to build the company brand as an attraction strategy for candidates. If you would like to promote your organisation's brand as an employer of choice, please contact Richard directly on 0403 588 517 or via email richardt@arateexecutive.com.au.